The shocking truth behind God's judgment on air, a forlorn tale from the Bible revealed. Few knew what truly happened that night in the dim glow of the stars. The air electric, heavy with a sinister promise. It was a solemn hour in the ancient town of Judah, a hidden corner of history where echoes of fate whispered through the dusty streets. Er, the firstborn son of Judah, stood on the precipice of destiny. In a world steeped in tradition and expectation, where bloodlines defined honor, he felt the weight of the family name pressing down on him like a boulder. People expected greatness from him. Yet, like a shadow in the night, a deep darkness lurked within him, unspoken and chilling. Hardly anyone knew just how he had angered the Almighty, except for a few. They shivered at the mere mention of his name, then came the sudden quaking of the earth, shaking the very foundation of Er's life. An omen. The townsfolk gathered, their faces pale, eyes wide with fear. Er's heart raced, anticipation clawing at him as he felt the fabric of reality unravel around him. What dark secrets had he hidden? What sins had he committed, veiled by a charming facade? The stars flickered above, a cruel reminder of God's judgment, punctuating the silence with a swift gasp of cold air. The stories flowed like a feverish stream among the people. He was wicked. The word of God condemned him. A woman murmured, her voice trembling. A man replied, but does that mean he deserved this? To be stricken down without mercy. A ripple of uncertainty coursed through the crowd. They were afraid yet curious, clinging to each other for comfort, their questions hung in the night, what peril lay in Er's darkened heart? Why was he deemed unworthy? For in the course of a single breath, one man's life spiraled into chaos. The judgment was swift, the repercussions terrifying. But what had truly sealed his fate? As the smoke rose from the earth, mingling with the cries of those left behind, the shadows whispered secrets untold. Each face in the crowd reflected back the fear and awe of a reckoning none could understand. The heart raced, breaths hitched as everyone waited for a sign, a revelation. Would they learn the truth behind the terrifying fate of Er? Or would the darkness continue to consume the answers? The night deepened, thick with mystery, leaving them yearning for light. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. As the night lingered on, the embers of fear and curiosity glowed in the hearts of the townsfolk. They stood enshrined around the lifeless form of Er, a young man whose ambitions once soared high, now reduced to a memory drifting among the whispers of the living. The flicker of torches illuminated the shadows, creating a dance of light and darkness, each shadow morphing with the weight of sorrow and disbelief. Among the crowd, a man named Onan, a cousin to Er, felt the chains of fate tugging at him. Where Er had been firstborn, a title that bore the weight of history and expectation, Onan bore the burden of family legacy. His heart echoed with questions that rattled within him like stones in a jar. What could lead to such a drastic judgment? Was there room for redemption, or was the road closed forever? With each breath, he weighed the rumors that trickled through their hushed conversations. Wicked. He murmured to himself under the stars, feeling the burden of accusation in the air. He had known Er as a child, a boy full of laughter. Those shadows of secrets had always followed him, growing heavier, darker as the years went on. As if responding to his contemplation, the winds shifted, stirring the dust. Onan felt a sudden urge to step forward, beyond the safety of the crowd's murmurs. He approached the still body, searching for the truth hidden in the void left by life. The chill of the night air is matched only by the chill of fear. Leaning closer, he whispered, "What did you do, cousin?" For a moment, silence enveloped them both. Then, something stirred within Onan, as if Er's spirit flickered in the candlelight, hinting at the dilemma of fate. A memory sajeda moment shared between them long ago, when Er spoke of a hidden love, a yearning that faltered in the face of expectation. "You were always chasing shadows," he recalled aloud, his voice barely rising above the sighs of the night. Could it be that what lay at the heart of Er's undoing was not merely his actions but the unvoiced dreams he had dared to dream? Were there consequences to the love he could not claim, the ambition he dared not fulfill? As Onan pondered, a cloud parted across the sky, casting silver moonlight upon Er's face, the features softened yet marred by a finality that was irrevocable. Then, like the first drop of rain after a long drought, a woman stepped forward from the shadows of the crowd. It was Tamar, a widow and sister-in-law to Er. Her eyes bore the weight of grief and a fierce resolve. "We do not speak of his heart," she declared, raising her chin defiantly, "but perhaps his heart is where the truth lies buried." The words hung in the air, palpable like the tension of charged storms waiting to break. Onan turned to her, surprised yet intrigued. "What do you mean?" he queried, his curiosity piqued, the momentum of uncertainty shifting in the air. For a moment, Tamar faltered, as though a veil was lifted just long enough for her to peer through the darkened haze of yesterday. "I saw him once, praying under the olive tree," she began, her voice trembling yet steadied by conviction. His prayers were filled with regret, with longing for a path unseen, a path where he could honor love, yet he was bound by the expectations thrust upon him. The crowd pressed closer, urging her to continue, their collective breath held taut with the possibility of understanding. What lay behind Er's judgment, she wondered, echoed in their hearts. As she spoke, the night deepened as if the heavens themselves leaned closer, eager to catch the revelations unfolding below. The air was pregnant with possibility, yet a disquiet settled among them. Had Er's tragic end been a testament to the weight of unfulfilled dreams, or was it rooted in deeper transgressions that even Tamar dared not reveal? The mystery only thickened, swirling like mist around them. As the stars blinked down with their distant, indifferent gaze, Onan pondered the weight of Tamar's words. Were dreams worth pursuing when anchored by judgment? What truly lay within the hearts beneath the facades that shaped judgment in the eyes of the Almighty? The night rolled on, and as shadows flickered gently, all were left with one clinging thought: was love, in its purest form, truly a catalyst for condemnation or a beacon calling them back to mercy? The crowd remained hushed as Tamar's words reverberated in the darkness. They were no longer just witnesses to Er's fate, they were confounded participants in a story that now demanded their contemplation. The faint rustle of leaves intertwined with murmurs of disbelief, and an unseen tension gripped them tightly. Onan, still caught in the web of conflicting emotions, felt a stirring within him. The words "unvoiced dreams" echoed in his mind, growing louder in the cacophony of sorrow. He had felt the weight of expectation upon his own shoulders, heavy as stone, but this weight was different. It was the burden of lives intertwined, of dreams not pursued, and desires abandoned under the scrutiny of duty. As Tamar continued to speak, sharing whispers of her own heart intertwined with Er's, Onan noticed another figure silhouetted against the torches, a man whom many in the crowd knew well. It was Judah, a prominent leader among them, respected and feared alike. He stepped forward, his brow furrowed in concern. "What do we truly know of judgment?" he proclaimed, his voice steady yet laden with ponderance. "Are we so quick to brandish blame upon the faults of the fallen without peering into the mirror ourselves?" His words carved deep into the still air, igniting a flicker of recognition among the townspeople. How often had they judged the lives of others through the narrow lens of their own fears and limitations? Was it possible that in casting stones at Er, they were betraying the flaws that lingered in their own hearts? Onan seethed with unease. Judah's insight struck a chord, yet it only deepened the enigma. He glanced at Er's motionless form, an echo of the man he once knew, and then back to the crowd, where pain and hope twisted together in their bewildered expressions. "What if," Onan found himself saying, his voice trembling with uncertainty, "what if the punishment laid upon Er is but a reflection of our collective shortcomings? What if the Almighty's judgment is not merely a sentence but a call to examine our own frailties?" The night held its breath as the crowd absorbed this new thought. The weight of Onan's statement hung in the air, heavy with implication. Could it be that Er's end was merely the start of a much deeper reckoning among them all? A call to awaken from the slumber of complacency, a plea to confront what lay hidden within each heart. Tamar turned her gaze toward Onan, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. And what of his love, the love that he could not claim? Was it not innocent? If passion is pure, how can it lead to demise? What if that love had the power to illuminate the truth we resist? An uneasy rustle swept through the crowd, and whispers cascaded, each voice intertwining with doubt and curiosity. They were no longer just there to mourn, they found themselves wrestling with controversial ideas about love, judgment, and the ever-persistent struggle to reconcile one's heart with societal expectations. The stars twinkled overhead, indifferent to the tumult below, but as Onan looked up, he caught a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. He could feel the spirit of something greater pressing against the boundaries of their understanding, a yearning to be known, to be free from the judgments inflicted by both society and the self. Judah stepped closer, passion igniting his words. Let us not forget that judgment presides where understanding falters. Can we gather the fragments of A's love and seek to heal rather than destroy? Might this be an opportunity to recognize the love that dwells in our own hearts before it is snuffed out by fear? Onan pondered this deeper call to action, recognizing that every judgment they cast resonated in the very foundations of their being. As the crowd began to murmur in agreement, he realized that the essence of what they sought, truth, love, redemption, lay not only in A's story but in their shared journey. Yet questions lingered thick in the air, like fog refusing to dissipate. Was it truly love that led to condemnation, or was the true condemnation rooted in their fear of love itself? As the night deepened and the crowd contemplated these new revelations, they were left with an unresolved weight. Would they choose to embrace the love that could unite them, or would they let the shadows of judgment continue to divide them? The stillness of the night wrapped around the crowd like a shroud, broken only by the whispers that spiraled like smoke into the darkness. Each gaze shifted back and forth, between A's lifeless body and the fervent expressions of the speakers. Onan felt the pulse of their collective heartbeats, each one a reminder of common dread and yearning. In that moment, Tema stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. What if A's love was a beacon, illuminating the shadows of our hearts? Can we grasp the truth that the lessons hidden in tragedy are often veiled in our own ignorance? She paused, searching the faces before her for understanding, her heart racing with fervor. Judah nodded, the weight of leadership heavy upon his shoulders. It is in moments of confrontation that we often turn away from the very truths we are called to embrace. Perhaps, as a community gathered in grief, we must strive not to assign blame but to unearth understanding, seeing her not merely as a victim of consequence but as a reflection of our own fears. The crowd absorbed the words, wrestling with the provocative idea that each of them bore a fragment of A's story. Was it not easy to dismiss the complexities of their own lives while scrutinizing the failures of another? In that reflective silence, the air thickened with yearning, for they stood teetering on the precipice of self-discovery. A sudden gust of wind rustled the branches overhead, and one young woman in the crowd, her voice small yet poignant, spoke up. But can love truly thrive without acceptance? Did A's heart not feel the chains of expectation as we do? What if our judgments are mere reflections of our inability to accept our own truths? Her question resonated like a bell, each echo drawing them further into contemplation. Would their fear of acceptance ultimately sever the thread of connection that bound them to one another? Onan felt a stirring within, a gentle nudge toward an unexplored realm of understanding. As Tama's eyes sparkled with the heat of revelation, she posed another layered query: what if we have misinterpreted God's judgment not as an act of wrath but as a divine call to awaken us to our potential for love? A murmur rolled through the crowd, some nodding while others hesitated, uncertain. Was the divine touch meant to illuminate their blindness to the true nature of love? Judah raised his hands, a gesture of unity shimmering through the tensions. Indeed, perhaps the divine judgment we perceive is an invitation, a summons to reclaim the love we deny both in ourselves and one another. As night deepened, uncertainty lingered thickly, blending with the curiosity ignited by Tama's words. Onan's heart raced as he reflected on the weighty notion that the journey of love was marred not just by failure but by an overarching fear of vulnerability and acceptance. He wondered, could the communal recognition of this truth mend the fragmentation of their hearts? But even as realizations dawned, the questions piled one upon another, creating a labyrinth of introspection. How could they face the judgment of their past while whispering promises of a hopeful future? Was there truly magic in embracing imperfection, or would it merely lead to deeper despair? As the shadows danced and the stars looked on, the crowd remained transfixed, caught in the web of new revelations, yet yearning for resolution. Would they dare to step into the light of understanding, or would the darkness of their fears continue to shroud the echoes of A's love, casting a pall over their own hearts yet to be unveiled? The night wore on, each heartbeat echoing the unspooled thread of fear and revelation interwoven among the gathered. The air felt charged, a tapestry of emotion tugging at the souls present. Tama, resolutely standing at the front, sensed the heaviness of the moment, an undulating wave of grief paired with an undercurrent of awakening. Intrigued by her own questions, she turned her gaze toward Judah. What must we do, then, to shift from blame to understanding? Her voice held a tremor, revealing not only her concern for A's memory but also her heartfelt desire to guide the community toward healing. Judah pondered for a moment, considering the weight of his role not just as a leader, but as a fellow seeker. Perhaps we might begin by sharing our burdens, revealing the hidden fears we all harbor within us. For in our shared vulnerability lies the potential for healing, a reminder that we are not isolated in our struggles, but bonded by our humanity. As if catalyzed by his words, one of the elder men in the back of the crowd stepped forward, his voice trembling with the weight of years. I have watched as expectations devoured our capacity to love freely. The judgment I placed upon air mirrored my own fears. I see it now. We have condemned him to carry not just his own burdens but mine as well. A murmur of understanding rippled through the crowd, as heads nodded in agreement. Another voice, tentative yet aware, spoke, "What if we could turn our grief into a catalyst for change? I, too, have judged not just air, but myself. If love is indeed a beacon, then it is one we must all strive to light, both within and among us." With each new voice, a veil lifted, revealing a shared tapestry of wounds and vulnerabilities. The realizations were woven together through stories of pain, regret, loss, and ultimately, hope. Eyes shone with unshed tears, not merely of sorrow, but of an awakening realization that perhaps, in this community of mourners, they had revisited the core essence of love itself. Yet, Tamar felt a troubling heartache surge within her, a reminder that love's invitation was not an easy path to tread. Lies encircle our hearts, she added gently, and we must confront them. Is it possible that our reluctance to embrace acceptance reflects our fear that love might indeed be a powerful force for both healing and haunting? Judah placed a hand upon Tamar's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity. Acceptance is not an end but a journey, one that demands we face the truths we often avoid. We must ask ourselves, what do we fear finding in our own reflections? With the night stretching on and the stars awakening overhead, the crowd's intensity shifted, uncertainty blossoming into courage. They began to share their silent struggles and innate desires, their aspirations not just for Air's memory, but for the lives they led, marred by shadows of perfectionism and expectation. Each vulnerability offered became a stepping stone toward humanity's shared experience. As the dialogue flourished, a weighty question lingered, echoing amidst their reflections. How can we celebrate love's imperfections and imperfect lives while still clinging to our aspirations for acceptance without fear of judgment? The tremors of this thought wrapped around them, leaving space for contemplation even as a light emerged through their communal transparency. Seeing their openness ripple through the crowd, Onan felt himself at the brink of an epiphany that had not fully formed. How might they embrace the balance between love's beauty and its raw fragility? Could a reckoning with their imperfect selves lead them toward a deeper, more authentic connection with one another? With these tenets of reflection in mind, an unspoken longing hung, weaving itself into the fabric of their gathering. Would that prophetic night unveil the true potency of love, or would they retreat, veiled by the shadows of their pasts? The path of acceptance set before them, twining through the thicket of their hearts, yet its conclusion remained shrouded in mystery, eluding their grasp. As the congregation drew closer in their shared vulnerability, the sky deepened into a rich pearl gray, holding what seemed to be the wisdom of ages in its vastness. Each flickering flame of the torches cast shadows that danced in rhythm with the flicker of hope ignited within the gathered hearts. They stood at a crossroads, where memory met revelation, the weight of sorrow lingered, yet stirred with the promise of newfound understanding. Judah, emboldened by the collective reflections, leaned forward. Let us not forget that while love binds us, it can also rend our spirits when entwined with judgment. We speak of air, but we must ask, how often have we built walls when we meant to offer our arms? His words echoed back to him in the soft nods of understanding that rippled through the throng. Tamar stood taller, the tension coiling within her spirit, a reminder of the greater truth they sought. It becomes a question of intention. Are we here to sully our memories with guilt, or to honor the essence of those we've lost by embracing compassion for the flawed tapestry we weave? The wind carried her voice far, beyond the precarious walls of tradition, threading her intentions into a collective yearning for clarity. Another elder, his hair as white as the moonlight brightening their gathering, stepped forth. His voice crackled with a mixture of fear and hope. In the face of loss, have we unknowingly resurrected a cycle of blame? Might we be blinded by our own sorrow, unable to see that Air's plight was a mirror reflecting our deepest fears? He looked around, catching the eyes of those who had known the ache of unspoken words. The murmurs of agreement flowed through the community again, emboldening those who had remained silent. One woman, her voice trembling but resolute, revealed herself. I loved Air, and in my love, I felt pressure to mold him to my ideals to perfect him. Now I see, my expectations suffocated his spirit, leaving no room for grace, both for him and for myself. A hush fell over the assembly as they absorbed her confession, a confession that unlocked doors to their own vulnerabilities. In the stillness that followed, another courage swelled. What if, said a younger voice, fragile yet fierce, we sought to embrace one another not under the weight of perfection, but through the lens of love's acceptance? Can we not gift each other the freedom to be as we are? Each new confession felt like a pebble dropped into a still pond, the ripples stirred deeper questions within them all. What if moments such as these filled with raw honesty were the true foundations of community? A tantalizing question surged forward like a flame reaching out for oxygen, illuminating past mishaps cloaked in misunderstanding. As the night wore on, Judah felt the profound shift weaving through the crowd. We shed these layers of judgment to unveil a truth: we are all here not as mere survivors of loss, but as seekers of learning through undulating grace. What if Er's journey, and the judgment upon him, was less about punishment and more about the lessons we were yet to embrace? A tremor of incredulity and reflection gripped those present. What could understanding look like, and how could they reshape their relationships moving forward? Was redemption only buried amongst their greatest fears, waiting for this moment? With the taunting dawn whispering over the horizon's edge, Tamar felt an unfinished longing coil within her spirit. What do we truly desire from this moment? Are we ready to rebuild our connections, or will we retreat into the comforts of our past, where shadows once dominated the light? As those words hung in the air, brightened by the first rays of sunlight, the truth lay before them like an uncharted path. An awakening had begun, yet the end of their journey remained unformed, steeped in an ethereal mystery that invited them forward. How might this moment transform not just their understanding of air, but of themselves as well? And more poignantly, what must they face to grasp the healing they so desperately sought? As the sun's golden tendrils stretched across the horizon, illuminating the faces of the gathered souls bathed in a newfound light, a palpable tension hung in the air. Each heart carried its burdens, and yet, there was something about this moment that whispered of change. "Let us gather close," called Judah, sensing the urgency that sparked in the hearts of the people. Like a shepherd guiding his flock, he drew them in. It was not merely a request for proximity, it was a beckoning for unity, a visual manifestation of the bond they were beginning to forge. "Facing our fears is but the first step," he continued, a tremor of conviction evident in his voice. "What comes next is the tender confrontation with our own hearts. We have spoken of air, but in examining his path, what have we uncovered about our own?" He paused, letting his words settle like seeds in the fertile soil of their community. Tamar stepped forward, no longer merely a voice among many but a beacon of introspection. "You speak of our hearts, beloved Judah, but what of the hearts that loved air? Did not love itself sometimes feel like a double-edged sword? When we love too tightly, did we not constrict, leaving our beloved feeling trapped within the expectations of their own lives?" Her eyes sparkled with conviction, illuminated by the flame of revelation. The crowd shifted uneasily, for they each reflected upon the question she had drawn forth. Was love truly perfect, or did it carry the weight of expectation? The silence that followed was not of discomfort, it was the contemplative hush of minds grappling with shifting understandings. An elder arose, his hands trembling slightly as he manipulated a weathered staff adorned with carvings of long-forgotten stories. "There are cycles in life, both beautiful and tragic," he mused, the light catching the nuances of his weathered features. Er's journey may not simply be a tale of judgment. Perhaps it is a reflection of the cycles we too find ourselves enmeshed within, often drifting like leaves caught in the currents of a river. "Cycles," echoed another, lingering over the word as if it were a talisman against the darkness that often pervaded their recollections. What lessons might we glean from those who have gone before us? How do we transform sorrow into a harbinger of understanding? The questions multiplied like stars appearing on the darkened canvas of the sky, shifting the atmosphere from one of despair to one of profound contemplation. They leaned into the vulnerability of their shared experience and the prospect of revelation still latent. A young woman stirred next, her voice trembling but resolute. "We have wrought judgment so quickly upon air, as if fear alone could eviscerate the anguish of loss. But what if, through our missteps, we are shown the depths of our shared humanity? Perhaps in his imperfections, we find our avenues for grace." Glimmers of understanding ignited among them, each revelation illuminating earlier shadows. It became evident that their collective striving was not merely for an answer, but for a broader embrace of existence itself, with all its flawed beauty. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the assembly in warmth, they were faced with an unsettling question, like a ripple in still waters: can we extend compassion to those who have shaped our understanding of love even when their actions seem irredeemable? Judah looked solemnly over the gathering of faces, aware that the dawn was merely the beginning of their exploration. Might compassion unlock the door we have kept shut? Would the willingness to forgive not illuminate the truths buried beneath sorrow, recognizing that the pain of the past could also birth collective wisdom? Are we prepared to see not simply through the lens of loss, but as a testament to our own struggles and triumphs in love? The murmurs grew softer as everyone fell into contemplative stillness, each heart navigating their own complexity. There lay a question that begged to be asked: how could love both save and shatter, leaving them yearning for clarity? What Hearts must they reconcile with to embrace the journey of transformation that awaited them. The air was thick with both sunlight and unspoken fears, as the assembly stood marinating in the reflections that had unfurled among them. Each heart was a fragile vessel, overflowing with thoughts, memories, and the haunting echoes of love's dual nature. They were now explorers, embarking on a quest to unearth deeper truths hidden within their lives. Judah, sensing the subtle shift in the crowd's energy, contemplated the path ahead. "We have touched upon love's complexities," he began, his voice steady as he forged a bridge from one question to another. "But what of the workings of fate itself? Is it merely a design we navigate, or is it a force that compels us toward profound understanding?" With this new inquiry, the elder, supported by the wisdom of years, leaned closer to the assembly, his dark eyes shimmering with ancient knowledge. "In our scrolls," he said, "fate and choice dance together, sometimes blinding us to the threads that weave our lives. We gaze at the tapestry, overwhelmed by colors and patterns, yet fail to see the hands that guide our paths. What if the tragedies we confront, like that of air, are whispers of a greater purpose?" The crowd stirred, grappling with these thoughts. One man, emboldened, stepped forth, his voice brittle yet determined. "But must we consider the intentions of God? Why would a compassionate creator allow such sorrow? Is there not a darker narrative lurking behind air's fate?" Uncertainty lingered in the air like a fog, but also the recognition of shared vulnerability. Tema responded gently, imbuing her words with patience. "What if we embrace the contradictions of faith? Could it be that within the depths of our suffering lies the seed for deeper faith? Perhaps the questions divulged by anguish serve to align us closer to the divine's loving touch, if only we dared to peer beneath the surface." In the midst of rising introspection, the wind shifted, rustling the leaves overhead, mirroring the turmoil in their hearts. Judah took a breath, allowing the voices of his people to echo within him. If our beloved air represents a call to reflect not just on judgment, but on the nature of divine love itself, what then does that mean for our own relationships and the way we treat one another? As whispers of affirmation floated among the gathered, an elder woman raised her frail hand, trembling with resolve. "Yet, do not forget the transgressions. For the love we offer can indeed harm. How do we reconcile the innocence of love with the pain it sometimes inflicts? What if our deeper understanding requires us to face our own imperfections, recognizing that we, like air, too are flawed?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. Each wondered how closely their lives echoed that of air's, and the shadows of judgment cast upon him seemed to widen into a reflection upon their own hearts. In this moment, they stood at the crossroads, questions pressing upon them like the weight of the world. Judah felt the gravity of their thoughts coalescing into a singular electrifying moment. What if the essence of love's plight is not simply nurture but also confrontation? A call to unravel the implications of our actions. Can love and judgment intertwine, leading us toward true compassion? As the sun climbed overhead, illuminating the soft contours of their faces with its gentle warmth, the assembly was left with a palpable tension. They stood poised at the edge of revelation, each feeling the significance of their embrace with complexity, yet aware no answers lay neatly within reach. The depth of contemplation became a tangible echo in their hearts. In seeking understanding, are we brave enough to confront our own failings and the failings of those we love, or will we remain shackled by fear, forever turning away from the very lessons we require to grow? In the days that followed the assembly, the gatherings under the olive trees became more frequent. Each meeting was a sacred pilgrimage, not just of feet traversing dust but of souls yearning to reach deeper realms of understanding. Judah, watching his people continually wrestle with their introspections, felt an ancient connection binding them all, entwining their struggles with the fabric of their shared history. One afternoon, as shadows danced across the ground, a young woman named Miriam, her heart heavy with questions, spoke with urgency. Do we not risk obscuring the truth of God's compassion if we dwell only on judgment? Might we unearth the heart of the Creator by seeing it not just as a cautionary tale, but as a mirror reflecting our own undeniable humanity? Her words rang through the minds of those present, evoking a chorus of quiet agreements mingled with doubts. An elder man shook his head gently, his brows furrowed with a lifetime of reflections. Miriam, it is easy to romanticize suffering when we do not bear its weight ourselves. Have we not witnessed how the winds of despair can blind the soul? Are we prepared to embrace every facet of truth, even those painted in shades of sorrow? A hush fell over the crowd as they pondered the intricate layers of love and sorrow, judgment and grace. Judah sensed a collective yearning for clarity amidst the fog of uncertainty. Perhaps our struggle with air's story is an invitation, he suggested, his voice resonating with the wisdom of patience. An invitation to consider how our own choices ripple into the lives of others, a kaleidoscope where loves you may shift from vibrancy to darkness without warning. In that reflective silence, Tamar, whose presence had always exuded warmth, reached for the hands of those near her. Love is both a sanctuary and a storm, isn't it? It beckons us to cherish and yet challenges us to confront. The assembly stirred, recalling their moments of tenderness, joy, but also the bitter pangs of betrayal and hurt that love, paradoxically intertwined, often brought forth. Then, a soft voice spoke from the back of the gathering, surprising the crowd. It was an old man, known for his silence, who had recently lost a child. "A story," he began, trembling but resolute, "reminds me that judgment does not solely belong to God. Each of us holds a piece of the heart's puzzle, and it is with our very actions that we shape the destinies of those we claim to love." A wave of realization swept through the assembly as they faced the weight of his statement. What if their lives were a series of interwoven choices, each thread capable of both healing and harming? Judah felt the air grow thicker with revelation, the cosmic dance of fate and free will swirling about them. "And still, we must ask," Judah urged, sensing the essence of the moment. "If our understanding requires us to acknowledge our own failings and the failings of those we love, what then becomes of mercy? Can we balance the scales of judgment and compassion without tipping into despair?" As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows into the cool embrace of evening, the questions hung in the air, heavy yet vibrant, unfurling before them like the vastness of the heavens. The assembly returned to the silence, lost in contemplation, yet somehow more connected not merely by their struggles nor their doubts but by the collective thread of love that bound their hearts so tightly. And in that shared stillness, Judah posed one more thought, a whispering challenge for the journey ahead. In our search for understanding, can we summon the courage to confront the dark truths within ourselves, even as we grieve those we have lost, or will we linger in the shade of denial, forever yearning for answers we fear to find? In the dawning light of understanding, the gathered souls of Judah stood under the expansive sky, shadows retreating as the sun took its rightful place on the horizon. They had traversed a night fraught with questions that had stirred deep within them, inflamed by the tragic tale of air. In those haunted hours, their hearts unraveled and rewove, bound by the fragile threads of connection and the echoes of love, loss, and longing. Judah, feeling the weight of his community's hearts and minds stirring with newfound clarity, sought closure through a final call to action. Today, we witness not merely the death of air, but the awakening of our own spirits. It is now time to embrace the lessons our grief has set before us, a chance to reshape our understanding of love and judgment, and plant seeds of mercy instead of curses. The crowd remained still, as though the very air held its breath, teetering on the brink of transformation. The shadows of the past may have weighed heavily upon them, but the rays of the morning sun painted a new canvas, inviting them to reclaim hope forged in the crucible of pain. Onan, once paralyzed by uncertainty and grief, felt an unshakable resolve take root in his heart. Stepping forward, he met the gaze of each curious face with unexpected clarity. To truly embrace Er's memory, we must not only honor him but acknowledge the shadow within us, the fear we harbor toward love and vulnerability. I have felt the sharp sting of expectations and judgment thrust upon me, and it is only now I see how deeply I too contributed to the silent agony surrounding Er. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd, anticipation igniting as they turned towards each other, recognizing fragments of their own struggles mirrored in Onan's confession. Tamar, emboldened by the transformation in others, positioned herself beside him, her spirit aflame with conviction. Let us vow to break the chains that have bound us, chains wrought from tradition, fear, and the blinkered judgments we have cast upon those we love. Instead, let us extend compassion, both to ourselves and to others. In what ways can we foster a love that flourishes free from oppressive expectations? I pledge to cultivate understanding, an elder man spoke, his voice resonating with raw emotion. To seek the courage to love fiercely, acknowledging that perfection does not reside in our actions, but in our willingness to connect, to forgive, to accept. As the audience felt a palpable shift in their shared energy, more voices emerged, heartfelt whispers drawn forth like wildflowers reaching for sunlight. Each promise rippled across the assembly, building momentum, each solemn word a thread woven tightly among them. Jubilation began to unfurl its wings, awakening the promise of transformation. Let us not relegate Er to a tale of war alone, but celebrate him as our catalyst for growth. A young woman cried, her spirit alight with conviction. With each act of love we manifest, we resurrect him in our hearts, his pain guiding us towards a greater understanding of what it means to be human. A thunderous roar of agreement resonated among the crowd, a chorus of reawakening, a troop of souls embarking on a journey into the light. Judah sensed the momentum as a powerful force, a tide of collective courage washing over them, beckoning each person forward. Today marks the beginning of our pilgrimage, he intoned, his voice steady yet passionate. Together, we will rekindle the flame for love, transcending the shadows of judgment and embracing the necessity of vulnerability. We shall build a community that honors truth as complex and beautiful as the myriad hues of the rising sun. The sun climbed higher, its warmth transforming the air into a haven of acceptance and possibility. The community joined hands, feeling the strength of their connection surge through their grasp, igniting their spirits with resilience. Suddenly, a child from the crowd, with innocence shimmering in her eyes, broke free and stood before them. If love is truly a light, shouldn't we let it shine on everyone? Even the ones we fear. Her question hung sweetly in the air, innocent yet profound. Yes, cried Onan, drawing her close. Let us allow our love to illuminate the darkest corners of our community. May each heart ignite a beacon that draws us closer to understanding and compassion. With that, they forged promises, pledges anchored in a desire for connection, embracing not only the life of air but the imperfect journey of every soul entwined in their lives. They chose to walk forward together, bearing their truths boldly, unearthing the compassion that blossomed in the face of flawed humanity. As the day brightened, settling into a balm of warmth, they stood hand in hand, transformed from mourners into seekers of love's deeper truths, progressing toward a future woven with the threads of acceptance and exaltation instead of fear. They gazed upon the horizon, where the sun broke forth with unyielding light, a testament to love's infinite capacity to heal. In the heart of their gathering, a realization became clear, a powerful revelation transcending the confines of their story. Love, they learned, was not merely a vessel of desires fulfilled, but a crucible in which hearts are forged and transformed through trials and tribulations. And in this majestic moment of unity and revelation, they understood, in their willingness to confront the shadows both within and around them, they had unearthed a profound truth that echoed through the ages, a truth that would propel them into the world beyond, ever driven to extend the hand of love amidst life's uncertainties. Thus, they stepped forward as the sun blazed in full splendor, not just as individuals marked by loss, but as a collective unshackled from judgment's chains, woven into the divine tapestry of acceptance, compassion, and grace, the calling that would shape their legacy beyond this very moment.